I'm Matt from Wargamer. I'm here joined by the team behind the Beast role-playing game, including Aron Midhall, the sort of lead artist and the founder of Studio Midhall, and Chris Sims, who's lead designer. So do you guys just want to introduce yourself and sort of tell me what is Beast, the role-playing game?
Absolutely, sure. I'm Aron. I'm one of the co-founders behind Studio Midhall and as well as lead artist and art director as well. And with me I have Chris as Sims, wonderful mastermind behind the RPG. And Chris, would you mind introducing the game for the audience?
I'm Chris Sims. I'm the lead designer for the Beast RPG. And the Beast RPG is about hunters in a what I like to call pre-apocalyptic world where they face supernatural threats against humanity. In fact, they're the only ones who can, and they risk their humanity while doing so, and ultimately face titanic beasts that are part of this dreadful world.
Awesome. So this is an AMA, everyone who's watching, so, throw your questions in the chat and I will relay them, but also I have plenty of my own questions. So if none of your questions are any good, I'll just ask mine. I'm also going to put the trailer into the chat here so people who come late can see what the game is. Awesome. So I think maybe to kick off, it might be interesting to talk about the setting a bit more and sort of what sort of setting is it? What's the main concept, I suppose, and sort of what inspirations are there behind it?
Oh, inspirations behind Beast and role-playing game. Oh, this is a weird one. I would say like when we first set out to make Beast and in extension the role-playing game, we didn't really look too much at other board games, role-playing games or video games. And like for me, the biggest inspiration from like either arts, like Jon Bauer, the artist, or Princess Mononoke, the movie. I would say Beast is very much Princess Mononoke in like a Scandinavian, a little more scary and dark environment. That's probably the biggest ones, for me at least.
Mm-hmm. And
I think that I think that we moved on to other influences in pop culture. Like there's probably some Witcher elements and some Dark Souls elements and things like that, where some typical dark fantasy, but also with our own little twist on it. So.
Mm-hmm. And who are the players in this RPG? What are the characters doing? You said they're the hunters?
Yes, they're hunters. So hunters are kind of these supernaturally empowered people who stand against other supernatural forces in the world that are threatening humanity. And most people aren't willing to take the risks or pay the price to be hunters. So hunters are really standout individuals who take great risks not only the typical risks that a hero in a fantasy setting would take, like hunting monsters and risking your life, but also the supernatural forces of the universe really can threaten your humanity as you work to acquire the power you need to face the threats that are arrayed against you.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Something I was jumping back a little bit. I was going to ask how did this sort of project come together? Because obviously it was originally a board game, now it's an RPG. How did you make that decision, and how did you get involved?
Chris, do you want to take this one as well? I think it's a bit more fun from your side of the story.
Yeah, so it's strange. I came to be in contact with Studio Midhall in kind of a strange way. I was in Spain, and I went to a game convention with one of my friends, and he was going there for a job with the people who handle licensing for Studio Midhall, and I just by chance happened to go with him. And with them, and the guy who was representing Studio Midhall said, "Hey, you're an RPG guy. I should put you in contact with Studio Midhall." I said, "That sounds great. It sounds like fun. I'll do it." Yeah. So I guess the rest is history.
I think when someone like Chris gives you a call and says like, "Hey guys, do you want to make a game together?" You can't be like, "No." Like, of course you're gonna say yes. Like, we'll have to think about it. It's just like, yes. Yes, let's go.
Lucky you had a whole setting there ready to make a game out of you. Otherwise, that would have been awful. Aaron, your art is obviously fundamental to the Beast setting. I had a bit of a question about your process. So the question is, to what extent do you get an idea for a drawing and build the lore about it from there, or do you start off with the lore and do a drawing based on the lore? Is that
it's
setting?
A little bit both, I would say. Like, especially now doing the RPG, this is like my favorite workflow of the project. It's either me just painting something, because we need a painting for something, and then Chris is going to look at it and be like, oh yeah, I bet I could make a creature of this, or I could create rules from this even. Or it's like Chris needs something and I just paint it. It's like this very like no rules, very much back and forth progress, where it either starts with a painting or it ends with a painting.
Cool.
It's wonderful. It's very fun.
Sounds like a fun way of working.
One of the cool parts about the process also is that we build lore for other games and then also put it into the RPG.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Sorry, you build lore for other games and then.
So we build lore for like other Studio Midhall games, like Hollow Pact, which is just coming out and being developed and stuff like that, and then we figure out how that might fit into the RPG too. Or we're building deeper lore for the entire Beast universe, and that is building up the lore for the RPG simultaneously, while also building lore for games that will come in the future.
Interesting. Oh. And obviously this is a D&D 5e project, which makes sense. It's the most popular system, and you're very familiar with it, Chris. So I was wondering, though, was there ever any consideration to use any other system, or did you always have D&D 5e like on your mind?
Initially, the discussion was to either we make our own system, or we use the system, since it is open source and we're all very familiar with it. And Chris, having worked with Wizards for such a long time, I think for all of us it made sense. Both the bigger audience, just like foreignly speaking, from like a commercial standpoint, but it also fits what we're trying to do very well as well. Like things D&D do well. We have like the hero fantasy, you have the exploration, combat, and the tactical sense of the game that lends itself to the world of Beasts in a good way. I feel like we did definitely the right call of using the 5e system for Beast as well.
Yeah, one of the reasons for that mechanically is that one of the core conceits behind hunters is that at least eventually their personal power, their personal level of power far outstrips that of a normal human that's not willing to take the same risks and acquire the same level of power and risk their humanity in the same way. And most people aren't. I mean, let's face it. We like to imagine to be heroes and warriors in a setting like this, but really it would be, if you were there, it wouldn't be a nice life, right? So yeah, most people were like, you go fight the monsters, we'll stay here behind the village walls. Like, so.
Yeah, should be said. A hunter very seldom gets to grow old in this world. Brutal life you have ahead of you.
Got it. So it is sort of heroic fantasy, but with a bit of a bite to it. How have you sort of adapted 5e to make that work? Because obviously, I think most people think 5e. They think Critical Role first of all, but they think classic fantasy. The paladin and the mighty hero goes out, slays the dragon, and gets all the gold. How have you sort of built this darkness into the sort of setting and the RPG?
Well, in some ways, it's like not typical fantasy. Like D&D is kind of this great mix of all kinds of fantasy tropes at one time. And Beast kind of scales it back to the thematic things that fit Beast. But also it tells you, the Beast RPG tells you how to kind of re-theme some core D&D elements so they work in the Beast universe. So you can have a paladin that has a core subclass, but the Hunter's Guide will tell you how to make that subclass and that paladin seem to fit in the Beast universe. I've also added various mechanics to kind of change the way 5e functions in some ways, and to change some core conceits, change the way some spells work. Every class has 3 subclasses or so that are tailor-made for the Beast universe. And then we have loads of monsters and Also, I've changed the way boss monsters work, so they feel like really challenging, drag out fights against these beasts, while also paying some homage to the Beast board game, which is the clear predecessor of this product. So,
cool. And you've obviously got a history designing D&D 5e in the past, and I'm sure you will going forward as well. So obviously you love this setting. What is it you like about designing for this setting? Not this setting, sorry, this system.
The D&D system?
Yeah, the D&D 5e system. Sorry, I flubbed that question a little bit.
I think it's mostly because it's thematically flexible, and my design process starts with either like what's happening in the movie in my mind or the story that some element is telling. And Beast is so deeply that it just makes it kind of a joy to take it from story to mechanical expression. And it's a very smooth process for me sometimes, because I look at some element that's in the board game or some element that's in Aron's art, and I say, oh, this is clearly related to this D&D theme, but we can make that like speak to something that's a unique aspect of Beast.
One of the sort of elements of the setting that obviously stands out and grabs me is the spirits and how they sort of tie in. How do they fit into the world of Beast? Can you tell me a bit more about those? Either of you.
So we started making, because we need a reason for Beasts to be as big as they are, and for the hunters to be more powerful than a regular human. And we came up with spirits, basically the idea that spirits belong to 3 different worlds, invisible and very hard for a human mind to understand, but they are basically everywhere. At least in the Northern Expanse, place the Beast RPG is taking place in. And they're constantly listening. Basically what they want is to see engagement. They're here for excitement. They will latch on to things such as strong desires, either non-spoken or like literally promises made, like for revenge or whatever it is. They will listen and grant you that what you wish for might just come true, because there are always spirits listening around. That's sort of how we explain hunter leveling up and becoming stronger, and a lot of the weird like supernatural phenomena of doing something that's not humanly possible otherwise, because they have made some kind of deal with many spirits of the world. And even for the beasts themselves are at this point in the setting almost like godlike creatures, like beyond strength in any meaningful comparison. Also starting out as something else, sometimes animals, or just like some kind of natural phenomena, and spirits latching on because there's a will or desire there. So spirits are constantly listening and watching. We have a lot of these, call them the standing stones. It's basically like small spaces that appear in like cliff sides or in trees themselves. Even in like plates of armor, there's always going to be faces, like a good indication that spirits are currently here and they're currently listening. But it's sort of like weird, like, I don't know what we should call it, like this promise, desire, transactional economy where the spirits will listen, they will grant you power, but they will most often expect something back. Something in this bargain has to be fulfilled.
A lot of times these bargains are conscious, like somebody really wants something and they know that the spirits are listening, so they ask for it. But it can also be a very strong desire, and the spirits will still fulfill it, even though your very strong desire, even though you didn't offer anything to the spirits will say, okay, you clearly want this thing and I'm just going to give it to you. So that's how some people can become hunters without really intending to gain that level of power. Most people in the world, they're aware of the spirits, at least in some fashion, and they do things to ward them off. So they don't get that type of attention, right? But hunters and other very powerful beings have somehow moved into that world where the spirits are paying a lot of attention to them. And this is one of those wonderful stories that I'd actually like to tell, where the art kind of informed the process of creating the lore. So Aron's art has all of these faces in it and stuff like that. And I just wanted to make that mean even more than it does in the art. Is why. And these spirits that are always listening, they impart all the magic and some of the supernatural things that happen in the world. But when they really want to watch something, they just press their faces against the real surfaces of things, and they leave them behind even when they stop watching. So if you're exploring a place and you see all these faces weirdly pressed all over everything, at least at one time something really important to the spirits happened there. But you could also it could also be an indication that you're in danger because that magic might still be present.
That they were there long ago, and this is sort of a clue, or it could be that something is about to happen to you right now. That's fun.
Yeah, something is about to happen right now, and that's I think that's like the beauty of it as well. Like it allows us to have like a power system, a magic system, but with consequences. We can still be sort of like very creative in the stories we choose to tell with it. Or again, this is a role-playing game. Like when players have the books, they're free to do with it what they want. But it's such a beautiful way to just like create all kinds of stories, like the small like folklorish adventures to battling a beast and having a spirit system as a basis. It's wonderful. It works really, really well.
Yeah, I've got someone in the chat saying everyone gets a Warlock patron essentially.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it's not quite that literal, but yeah, I mean, so an example of what could happen in the world of beasts is, say, two people, they had a legendary ancestor that was a big hero, and they really want their daughter to be like that. Like for some reason, both of them agree that they really want their daughter to be like that. So the spirits could listen to them and grant that power to the daughter without her consent in the kind of magical transaction that's going on. But she would grow up to be more heroic than the average person because her parents desired that, for example. It's yeah. I mean, the preview makes it clearer the Beast RPG preview makes it clearer how all that works, but it is really a fun way to have origins that are really weird and unusual, or to have somebody design a character that has very conscious connection to the spirits. It can work either way, which is fun.
It seems like a fun tool and sort of challenge for the DM as well, I suppose, because like how does a GM sort of embody an otherworldly and get in the mind of an otherworldly, unknowable spirit and work out what they would want and how they would act?
Well, one of the things is that the main thing they want is for interesting things to happen. So that's kind of what the GM wants too. So that's
makes sense.
Yeah.
We should also say we rework the way personality and things work, and something you always have on your character sheet. It's a pact. Basically, something like a promise is almost holy when spirits are listening. So when you play, you're gonna be consciously or subconsciously forming packs as well that are put on your character sheets that become like guiding lights for your player to try and follow. And that can also be as easy as the dungeon master catching your player saying like, "Oh, I promise with all of my heart to help you," and it's like, "Oh yeah, you made a pact with the person. Break it. Big bad is probably going to happen." And it's like, "Oh, okay."
And I think I guess you could have fun. You could have fun with that, whether or not you tell the player that they've made a pact, because there's consequences if you tell them and consequences if you don't tell them, I suppose.
Yeah.
I think that most of the time you want them to know, though, so they can kind of move their character in that direction, even if the character doesn't know. Like it's possible for the character not to know, but the player does. And there's an interesting dichotomy there where the player moves the character in directions where the hunter really wouldn't necessarily naturally go, but they're following a pact that the hunter doesn't know about. So, yeah, I mean, an example is there's a pre-made character named Burgog, and he really wants to live up to the image of his heroic father. And he actually has a pact on his character sheet that says heroic. And so some of his personality traits are informed by the desire to be heroic, but anybody who was playing Burgog would use that pact to guide his behavior as well, like living up to this vision happens to you. Like, for example, one of my friends that has been playtesting, he has a kind of fast-talking con man rogue. And when he gained permanent corruption, the first thing he chose was for his tongue to become bifurcated like a snake. And most of the time, these marks of corruption, if normal people see them, it scares them, or it lets them know that there's not something not quite right about you. So, and if you gain enough corruption, it doesn't kill you. It turns you into an NPC under the Chronicler's control with all your exaggerated personality traits and marks of corruption in force. And until your friends can either rescue you or they don't, then you exist that way until you. So it's not death, it's transformation.
Yeah, sort of like the lines between your own humanity and like the supernature of the world gets like completely blurred. And it's been something very weird as well, because this is obviously something that happens to hunters more so than anything else, and hunters are like humanity's last line of defense. But knowing this is something that happens, it's like, okay, so this is what we have to defend ourselves against the great beasts of this world. But we also know that there are, in some instance, like ticking time bombs as well. It makes for, again, some really, really cool storytelling. Like, how far can we trust this? And encountering other hunters or players like or like NPCs on the verge of the corruption threshold. It's like, yeah, there is something here.
I like that. It's not like they're a demon or anything. It's just that they've been messing with stuff. Well, what's up with them?
And one of the flip sides of that's kind of cool is that there are human villains in the world, or human potential adversaries or rivals, that the things they do have led them down a certain path of corruption, and that's why they are rivals or adversaries or what have you. And some of them have very specific inhuman traits because of the way they have pursued the supernatural in their belief system or life.
Right. So the corruption system and the sort of the traits you get, obviously that's sort of a powerful role-playing hook, but are there sort of statistical and sort of more nitty-gritty mechanical elements of it as well? Or did you want to keep it mostly role-playing?
I wanted to keep it mostly role-playing just because everybody used to think that that's so much fun, like to be able to exaggerate some personality trait or to make up some physical sign of how you're changing. I was actually surprised. I made the corruption system, and I was actually surprised that people thought it was so much fun, because normally I would think like, oh, this is to the detriment of my character somehow. But people seem to really like it. I think that if a character became an NPC and the player wanted to just allow that character to kind of remain an NPC, then I might change it statistically in some way that fits the corruption that it had. But when you start to mess around with too many mechanical changes based on the sort of corruption we're talking about, it starts to unduly complicate something that's really fun as a role-playing tool. Right.
It needs to be simple as well, not like dilute the already existing experience as well. Like a little cherry on top, nothing bogs down the gameplay or how long it takes or kind of thing.
Yeah,
I think.
Go on.
Oh, sorry. I think that people can use corruption, for example, as an excuse to take character traits or go in a character direction where, mechanically speaking, that they wouldn't necessarily have gone before, but the corruption kind of inspires them to, I don't know, take a level of warlock instead of remaining a fighter or something like that. So, and yeah.
Yeah, I can totally see the logic behind not making it sort of something that's gameable and predictable, and you get a +1 bonus to this or whatever, because that sort of undoes the illusion of the sort of otherworldly, interesting and spiritual. Yeah, it's the opposite of that, I suppose. You don't want people to be, oh, I'm going to try and do this to try and get this kind of corruption. It's kind of like, no, that's not how this works. The other cool mechanic that I saw was the grudge system. Could you explain that?
Yeah, the grudge system is also related to spirits. both of these mechanical systems are related to the cosmological idea of how the spirits work. But the grudge system kind of replaces, well, and it doesn't kind of replace, it actually replaces the heroic inspiration mechanic of D&D, and it gives you a meta currency like heroic inspiration, but you can have more than one at one time, and you can spend it on things like re-rolling a roll that you failed, or re-rolling a low damage roll, something like that. That's the basic use of a grudge. But you gain them by adhering to your personality traits and your pacts and stuff like that. And you gain them in kind of a meta way at the table by just making the game more fun for everybody. Like if I'm running a game, sometimes I give the person that makes everybody at the table laugh a grudge. Like it's just a good incentive for just amping up the fun and kind of hamming it up and getting into the game, paying attention to what's going on. And the way it represents the spirits is that they're interested in the cool things you do. They're interested in you being who you claim to be. Like if Burgog is really brave, then he should act brave, right? And another use of a grudge is for the DM or the chronicler is that because Burgog is brave, if he's acting timid or cautious, I could, as the chronicler, say, "Hey, Burgog, aren't you brave? You should totally do that thing." And I offer him a grudge, and Aron's playing Burgog. He says, "Oh, okay, yeah," and he takes the grudge and he does the thing that I asked him for narratively. Or he says, "No, I'm going to play it cool for now, and I'm not going to take the grudge." So it's a way to influence the narrative in several ways. So
I would say, like, especially for like new players coming into like the RPG space, because I feel like D&D can be quite daunting. Like it's the most popular game, but it's the easiest by stretch to jump into. But I will say, like, how we reworked the personality system, where it's no longer like different ambitions, right? So it's like very easy 4 to 5 prompts of like, okay, I'm brave, kind, I'm naive, I'm whatever. Like it makes it very easy to jump into a character and figure out how that character would work. You have these prompts, and you also have like a little bit of gamification in which you play the character you created. You get rewarded for playing the character you created with grudges. Like you get a little coin in your hand for actually playing and like making something interesting happen, because your character would do that in a sense. So it becomes like you don't min-max your gameplay, but you still play more in how your character would play for interesting situations, and having like all players around the table just wanting this game to be as fun and interesting and being rewarded for that mechanically. Pretty sweet.
Corruption and grudges can work together because there's more powerful uses of grudges that if you use those uses of grudges, if you spend a grudge that way, you automatically gain corruption from doing that. So for example, you could spend a grudge to stabilize while you're dying in D&D. You automatically stabilize, but you gain corruption for spending a grudge that way. And so the system is kind of reciprocal that way. And also the more powerful uses of grudges are kind of cordoned off behind that corruption fence. So you hesitate to do it as a player. You're like, maybe it isn't worth gaining corruption to do that. And another thing is when you spend a grudge that way, you're giving it to the chronicler to spend against you later. So those two fences kind of keep those really powerful uses of grudges out there as a tempting option, but not something that you would just hoard all your grudges to do. Because if stabilizing, for example, was something that you could just spend a grudge on anytime, people would save all their grudges to do that type of thing, and that's not what we want.
Yeah, we were spending and wheeling and dealing. So sorry, when you say that the DM could spend it against you, is that when is that? Is that, sorry, have we already covered that usage, or is that?
No, that's a great question. First of all, some powerful monsters have their own grudges, so the chronicler can spend them against the players. Like I often roll out in the open, and I'll roll, and there's a low roll, and everybody at the table goes, "Yeah, she missed," and then I go, "But she spends a grudge." And so some monsters start with grudges, but also if a hunter spends a grudge on a dark dealing, is with all the powerful uses of grudges are that cause corruption, and you give it to the chronicler, then I could spend that if I'm the chronicler, I could spend that at any time in any situation to improve what the foes that you're working against do.
This is a little bit of a word, but you reminded me. I wanted to ask, because I'm always interested in when media becomes different type of media, and this is obviously a board game previously. Were there any challenges involved in sort of adapting it, or did it sort of come quite naturally into an RPG?
Oh, I would say like the challenge we had is basically just like expanding on the things. I think like a lot of the ideas were there, but board game lore isn't written like much. Like Beast had prompts in the beginning of the rule book explaining like the premise and the world, and that's like, I don't know, 300 words in total. And then there's like character lore on the players, different characters you can play as. And that was about it. We always had like one of the things that I feel like Beast did really well is it has like a very strong sense of theme and marrying theme to mechanics. So taking that and going into the role-playing game would be like, okay, how do we make these things work and keep the visuals theme matching? Because you are playing as a hunter, and playing as a hunter comes with certain expectations as well, right? As a hunter, you take on contracts, you hunt things, you play traps, things like that. I would say that's probably been the biggest challenge, but I wouldn't say it's a challenge so much. Also, just very fun to expand on things that were previously a little bit more on the face value, and now actually have like a lot of big lore to it. One of the things we've done in particular is like we have our beasts. They are huge named creatures all of the world knows, like even a random schmo would probably know who Fangor is. They are the impending doom in a way. And we've worked really hard to give them like really interesting backstories and really interesting personalities and different agendas. Well, like they all want different things. They're not just like black and white evil, like everything in the world of beasts, that's on a very morally grey scale. Players might side with humans in some conflict, and they might side with nature in another. So it's very grayscale, and trying to make that as interesting as possible. That's probably been the biggest challenge, but also the most rewarding one.
Yeah, I think that the original board game was so thematic, and some of the art was so thematic that it was, given my design process, it was actually pretty, I don't want to say easy, but a smooth transition from various ideas that are exhibited in the board game to expanding on them. So the role-playing game is going to start you off at the beginning of your career until you get to that point of power. So you aren't running around at the beginning fighting gigantic beasts, stopping other various threats to humanity, and protecting the places that you live, maybe fortifying and strengthening them, maybe building new outposts and stuff like that. And as you explore the world, grow in power, and learn more about the beasts, you decide what you're going to do about them. Like you might decide, as Aron hinted at a few moments ago, well, actually, we're the ones who did this beast wrong. So we could possibly fix that problem. And instead of killing this beast, put it back in its natural place, and then it's not a big threat anymore. Or this other beast that just swoops down and eats people and burns down villages, well, there's no reasoning with him. So we're going to have to go to where he is and get rid of him. And that's just a decision that you make as you progress in the game, which is a very important thing, a very important aspect, and something that developed as we developed the lore and as we decided on the granularity that exists from what the role-playing game expresses at the beginning to what the board game and the role-playing game express as kind of a bigger, more powerful state for the hunters. So you kind of go from being a little more powerful than normal, very skilled humans to being way more powerful than normal humans and able to take on the beast. Normal people could never take on the beasts. One conceit of the game Holopack, the board game Holopack that they're working on is that Studio Midhall is working on, is that the humans in that scenario go in, they steal something that the beast values, and the idea is just to get away alive. That's the way normal people, that's the best normal people could hope for.
It is really cool. I do love the idea that this started as something like sort of less explicit lore, more sort of, it's just a board game, and you don't need as much lore for a board game, so it only had what it needed, and then it sort of developed out of that and grown into this whole world. You have preempted like the next 4 or 5 of my questions in these 2 answers. Because I was thinking, well, actually, we're coming to like the 40-minute mark or something, and I've not asked a single question about the beasts in a game called Beast. So I'll do that now. And I was going to ask, are they evil, which you've sort of touched on already, but I suppose I'll ask instead, how do you make them feel like a legendary creature or a legendary thing rather than just a big wolf or whatever?
I think the word legendary. Go ahead, Aaron.
Well, it comes in 2 parts as well. It's both mechanically, but then it's also like big reason we're doing so much to give them personality, their own conflicts, local things, and even like a lot of the human affections. Like one of the big challenges by creating this is like, so this is a very limited session, like a limited world compared to like regular D&D. We can do so much more fit since everything in it means a lot more as well. Like you have the settlements. If one settlement is gone, it's gone. There's only 6 more left. Like the consequences are way higher. Giving the beasts so much more personality and so much more for the players to know about, encountering them not once but many times. Like one player might get hurt by one, or like someone they know might get killed or kidnapped or whatever. You can put any kind of mechanic to something, but we also need to make fights or the hunt mean something for the players. Like there needs to be like personal costs to this thing as well. I feel like that's the first little sprinkle of spice in how you make an actual fight interesting. But then we also change things mechanically as well.
So the word legendary means something specific to D&D players when it comes to legendary monsters and stuff like that. And I would say that legendary monsters, especially at higher level, have a reputation for not being strong enough to stand up against a party of adventurers by themselves.
Yeah.
Often. I think one reason for that is that for the challenge rating that these monsters exist at, the fact that they have legendary abilities kind of waters down what they do on each of their turns. So, for example, if a dragon is legendary and it has damage that it deals in its legendary actions, for it to be balanced, it deals less damage with its on-turn abilities, for example. So the damage per round is predictable by whatever challenge rating it sits at. What I have been experimenting with and now have decided will work, because I've play tested it many times, is that it's more fun if the beast or another type of boss monster functions like a group of monsters except in one entity. In other words, a beast might be set at encounter level 14, but it functions like 3 separate creatures at that are built with that experience point level in mind as a hard encounter or a difficult encounter, and then I add phases to it that makes the action economy, instead of flat across the fight, it goes up and down. So each phase is a different experience, and then I put intermissions or these interim events between each phase where something significant changes. So the battlefield changes or the way people are engaging with it changes. And part of this is homage to the board game once again, because the board game isn't about just standing there and fighting the beast in one fight and defeating it. It's about fighting it and it manages to escape, and then you have to track it down again and fight it until you defeat it. So I wanted to replicate, at least with most of the big beasts, the idea that these creatures, they don't just stand and fight you. When a phase changes, that might be an opportunity for the beast to escape. And then as hunters, you have to track it down again, hopefully before it recovers, and then fight it again. And maybe then it escapes again and you have to fight it, track it to its lair and finally finish it off there or whatever. That's not what happens every time. Every beast has its own personality, its own phases, its own action economy, its own powers. Its powers change differently between phases and stuff like that. But that's the basic concept. And so far in playtesting, it has really, really rocked. And I actually played it at Essen too. Essenspiel, the demo at Essenspiel was one of these phase combats, and it really worked. Even with people who had never played D&D before, they were able to get it and engage with the content. So it was really, really fun, and I think it's going to work out really, really well.
So yeah, I think that answers your question in the chat, Leo. Is that will it break out a second HP power after you've just finished your encounter with it? Essentially, that will happen. Yes.
Yeah.
You'll have to chase it down.
It does feel a bit more like a Dark Souls boss than a D&D boss, for sure, yes.
Well, the important part is it's built in a way that's mechanically fair. It's built in a way that's the same, that is no different from 3 ogres in a fight. It's just that the action economy of those 3 ogres is distributed in a fun way. The hit points of those 3 ogres is used to predict phase changes instead of saying that the monster dies there or falls there and stuff like that. So, and it really works well, and it's mechanically balanced and fair. It just provides a much smoother experience and a more taxing experience for a group of player characters or hunters, even if they're fresh, because it's built as if it's going to be a potentially deadly encounter, but in one creature.
Yeah. And can you say it's 3 ogres? I assume that means 3 ogres fighting sequentially, or would there be, maybe the first ogre is its claw and the other ogre is its tail, or do you do things with different parts of the monster?
No. So what the creature can do is thematic based on what it is and what phase of the combat it's in. So sometimes its capabilities change from one phase to another. It might become more aggressive and get a more aggressive power or something like that. But it is basically functioning as if it were an encounter with 3 creatures, but those 3 creatures, the action economy of those 3 creatures is in one creature. Yeah. And also, when it changes phases, it usually uses a phase change power or event that makes it a little more fair when it's one monster and everybody can target it. But it also makes the battle it changes the battle so it's more interesting over time.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And speaking about the design of these monsters quickly, I realize we're getting towards the end and I've got so much more to ask. So they all start out as regular animals before the spirit stuff sticks to them and they get all big and scary. How much do they warp from that, like from an original animal to something? So how different can they get and how unnatural can they look?
Not always animals. It's again like the spirits are weird, listening into things. It can even be like nature itself wanting something, but it can absolutely be an animal wishing for something, or a long legacy being upheld by spirits transferring their power to the next generation in a way. But yeah, they can get very, very, very different. They do change up a bit, and they're all meant to represent like different human fears in different ways as well. So we get very creative with the designs, both visually and mechanically.
I mean, obviously, Frangir looks like a wolf, for example, but she's really a representation of nature and kind of even some positive aspects of nature, like life and thriving, but then the flip side, predation and death and wildness. And so all these beasts really have their own origin. They don't all start out as animals, like Aron said. For example, Mara, there's a beast named Mara, and she has human-like aspects, but that's because she started out as this fiendish creature that kind of oozed out of the abyss and took on aspects of her first victim. And then grew from there.
Cool. And obviously, you won't be fighting these at level 1. So how will you be interacting with them, and how can you interact with them in a way that isn't combat necessarily?
Well, the adventure that's in the preview and the adventure that's going to be followed up on in the 3 that appear in the Chronicler's Guide starts with the beast Mara attacking a town called Vintervik. She has her own reasons for doing that, but at the end of that low-level adventure, when you come out of the site that you're exploring, spoilers, Mara is there waiting for you to tell you something else. So sometimes you can interact with the beast and they don't just murder you. Like they have things that they want you to do. In this case, not really a spoiler because you would learn this at the very beginning of the adventure. There is an ancient pact that the people of Vintervik made with Mara long ago, and somebody is breaking it, and Mara knows that. So she's asking, but she doesn't know who. So she says, "You can solve the problem, or I will punish you for breaking the pact."
I guess it makes sense they don't just attack everyone straight away because they're known things that exist in the world, and if they just killed everyone, I guess they wouldn't be. You wouldn't know what their name was if it just ate you straight away. I saw a phrase when I was looking into some of the marketing. I saw the phrase asymmetrical storytelling, and I was wondering if you know what that phrase meant. I don't know if you wrote it or not, either of you, but is that a phrase that you've heard before in relation to Beast?
Asymmetrical storytelling.
Asymmetrical storytelling. It just stuck out to me. If those weren't your words, then don't worry about it. We've got other things to ask.
I don't know where that. I had never heard that before, actually.
No worries.
Partly the same here. I don't know. I think that may be a playoff on like all the other games we made has had like symmetrical gameplay as a big feature. So I think it's a riff on that story game instead.
I mean, people have asked if you get to play the beast, like in the board game, somebody plays the beast. Well, the answer is yes. The Chronicler plays the beast, right? The Chronicler plays the beast, and everybody else plays Hunter. So it is asymmetrical in that way. I also think that it's unusual in so far as D&D is one of my design goals is that hunters aren't always reacting to what the bad guys are doing. They're figuring out things and then deciding how to solve that problem without having a big hook pulling them along. Like you gain information and you can decide, we know that this is going on here, or we think that this might be going on here. So let's just go check that out. Right. And then you discover more when you get to that site or whatever. And then you have more to say, we could go this direction or this direction. Which direction should we choose? And stuff like that. So,
I think that's one of the strengths of like setting this in the Northern Expanse as well, where we have like human factions and so on. Like the world doesn't necessarily like just exist in divisions of the player characters. It still lives and things happen outside your little player group as well.
Cool. How does the RPG sort of set that up? Like, do you have events that you say at this point this could happen, and sort of is that set up in the books?
Yeah, I mean, some of my favorite adventures do that, and I want to replicate that. So have events that first of all, you have to make sure the players have enough information to stand in the way of it. And then if they choose not to or prove unable to, then that event takes place and it changes their world. Like, a timeline could say at this point, if the hunters haven't discovered the plot against the Baroness, then the Baroness is murdered or she disappears, and then that leads to a whole different chain of events than it would if they had discovered that beforehand and changed it. And ideally, she disappears, and then it tells the chronicler where she is. So maybe the players can find clues to go rescue her before she actually is killed at a later date when she's of no more use to the villains or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And
that type of thing.
definitely a big fan of that. I much prefer having sort of a live world that you can sort of plan about and react, and not just react to, and it helps stop things from getting railroaded. It's really nice. Cool. One thing I noticed was that you sort of had quite a lot of extensive playtesting of this game, which I don't know how common that is for an indie RPG. And I was wondering why you felt that was important, and why that was something you wanted to prioritize.
I think playtesting is just essential, because if you run a game several times and you have these elements in it, and you can tell if it's fun. Like as it's play tested over and over and over again, if the same things keep coming up, people say, "Oh, I really love the way grudges work," or what's like I said earlier in this meeting. I was surprised where everybody was like, "Oh, I want to get corrupted so I can change my personality and get these marks of corruption." I was like, "Okay, that's really surprising," but that comes from playtesting. I wouldn't have known that. My intuition was that people would be like, "I don't know about corruption," so that was really surprising. And I think that. Yeah, go ahead.
I think playtesting is super important. We come from a board game standpoint in the beginning, and carrying that routine of work with us is great. It allows us to also just follow the fun, see what works, and doing things like the Kickstarter right now, just being very open. Hey, we want your feedback during this game. We want to invite you to actually shape the game with us. It's both a really important tool for us to make sure that what we're doing works and is as fun as it possibly can be. But it's also a golden chance for anyone out there that just really wants a chance to impact the game in meaningful ways to do that. They absolutely can. It's a really nice bridge between developers and players as well.
Another thing is that putting it in front of 1,000 minds, somebody will figure out how it doesn't work or how it breaks, and then you can fix that before you release it. So
always good. I realize we're in the final few minutes of the AMA at this point, and so I thought I have a few more questions, but otherwise I thought I should throw the ball into your court. And if there's anything you want to talk about Beast that we have not covered that I have forgotten to mention, that you're yearning to get out, then let me know. Otherwise, I will ask my other questions.
One thing I wanted to add is that the rules have added some combat options that are kind of essential for the genre, but aren't part of D&D. For example, technically in D&D, you don't climb on giant beasts, and you don't enter the space of other creatures that are larger than you, often depending on the size differences. And I've done things like added rules that just basically say, no, you can climb on a beast. Yes, you can enter the beast space, but that might not be the greatest idea, because it can just lay down on you or whatever. But and other things that just little tweaks that make the game a little more cinematic, a little more. Yes, you can try to do that even if you don't have the time, because you're a big hero, and you should be able to at least try to do that. Stuff like that. And I don't know, it's just the point is making the game as fun for the players, and that includes the Chronicler. The Chronicler is a player. And just let people try things that they want their heroic characters to do, without having to have a specific character feature or something like that. To me, it's okay if you have a character feature that just lets you do the thing, but other people should be able to try. Like an acrobatic character should be able to try to stand up more quickly than the rules normally allow, because they're good at acrobatics and they could do the martial art kippo, So it's little changes like that.
Cool. One thing I was going to ask, obviously this comes out, is it 2027? Am I right in thinking this comes out? Obviously the Kickstarter's running now, so it's still early days. But what after that, what is the next sort of step? Do you plan to expand the setting more? Do you think you could do it would you do a time skip and look at a different sort of part of history? Just bring more beasts in? What were you thinking?
Yes.
So many.
The answer to all of those questions is yes. I wanted to point out that the 2027 date is for like post-production printing releases and stuff like that. We're hoping to get the PDF versions into people's hands even before editing is done, just so people can play with it. But not only that, to play test it in public so people can play with this game over time before it releases. So you will be playing with elements of this game long before it releases. In fact, you will be playing with elements of this game starting this January. So
cool. Awesome. Did you have anything to add there, Aaron, or I can tell if you were jumping in or not?
Oh, no. I think Chris is handling this amazingly.
Awesome. Well, we are at time, and I know you are fluey at the moment, so I don't want to keep you beyond time because an hour is a long time to talk. So yeah, thank you so much for coming along. You've been lovely guests, and yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for talking.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And final reminder: do check out the Kickstarter if you haven't already. And a lot of things we have talked about. We do have the 100 plus pages preview. Has a lot of these things that you can just like try right now or read through.
Yep.
It's great. Should be played. So please give it a read through and let us know what you think as well.
Yeah, and tomorrow we're gonna post part of an actual play podcast that has 4 episodes. The first episode goes up tomorrow, I think.
Cool. Yeah, lots of content out there. Awesome. Great. Well, again, lovely speaking to you guys, and see ya.
Oh, thank you, Matt. It was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone in chat as well.
Bye, everyone.
Take care. Bye.
One thing I was going to ask, obviously, this comes out, is it 2027? Am I right in thinking this comes out? Obviously, the Kickstarter's running now, so it's still early days. But what after that, what is the next sort of step? Do you plan to expand the setting more? Do you think you could do it like, would you do a time skip and look at a different sort of part of history? Just bring more beasts in? What were you thinking?
Yes.
So many.
The answer to all of those questions is yes. I wanted to point out that the 2027 date is for like post-production printing releases and stuff like that. We're hoping to get the PDF versions into people's hands even before editing is done, just so people can play with it. But not only that, to play test it in public so people can play with this game over time before it releases. So you will be playing with elements of this game long before it releases. In fact, you will be playing with elements of this game starting this January. So
cool. Awesome. Did you have anything to add there, Aaron, or I can tell if you were jumping in or not?
Oh, no. I think Chris is handling this amazingly.
Awesome. Well, we are at time, and I know you are fluey at the moment, so I don't want to keep you beyond time because an hour is a long time to talk. So yeah, thank you so much for coming along. You've been lovely guests, and yeah,
thank you.
Thanks for talking.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. And final reminder: do check out the Kickstarter if you haven't already. And a lot of things we have talked about. We do have the 100 plus pages preview. Has a lot of these things that you can just like try right now or read through.
Yep.
It's great. Should be played. So please give it a read through and let us know what you think as well.
Yeah, and tomorrow we're gonna post part of an actual play podcast that has 4 episodes. The first episode goes up tomorrow, I think.
Cool. Yeah, lots of content out there. Awesome. Great. Well, again, lovely speaking to you guys, and see ya.
Oh, thank you, Matt. It was lovely. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone in chat as well.
Bye, everyone.
Take care.